Edward here from the Crypto Viewing Group, and I got something that I want to talk about here. It's very important to me, and it deals with, of course, with remote viewing, and it also deals with how I use remote viewing, why I use remote viewing, what I use it for, and how I use it as a learning tool. Meaning this, I have severe learning disabilities, or what would be considered in modern psychology to be learning disabilities. Dyslexia, you can throw in some of their attention deficit in there, maybe some spectrum, autistic spectrum things in there, and probably a few more that if I sat in somebody's room, they would probably put a few more labels on me as well. But learning has always been very difficult for me. School, grade school, high school was an absolute nightmare. The the information that was being dumped on me, I couldn't retain it. I couldn't read uh, properly with my dyslexia. Reading was extremely difficult. It just seemed that what other people were able to do easily, it was impossible for me to do. And I learned, I figured out at an early age, probably around maybe about eighth grade or something like that, that as I'm looking around and I'm seeing everybody, and they're getting A's and B's and C's, what are they doing that I'm not doing? And what they were doing was that they could repeat. Basically, they were getting fed a bunch of information, and they could just turn around and repeat it pretty easily. And I realized that if you're a good repeater, then you'll get rewarded. You'll get A's, and you'll get the pat on the back, and you'll get the gold star, and you'll get all those things. And I was never a good repeater. It was almost impossible for me. And so I was D's and F's. I struggled. I had to cheat all the way through school just to pass. It was terrible. It was traumatic for me. It was a nightmare. But in the midst of all of that trauma, I wished, I literally wished that I could find a way to access that information because it was going in, but I couldn't find it after it went in. And so when I sat down for a test or was asked or whatever, I couldn't find that information. It it was invisible. It was gone. And it wasn't until uh, I found remote viewing and began the process of application, intense application of remote viewing, that I found my learning tool, that I could use remote viewing um, to learn about things. And ironically, just as sitting at my school desk and with a test in front of me and all that information was invisible, it was gone somewhere. It was somewhere that I couldn't find it. But with remote viewing, because remote viewing, number one rule is the viewer has to be blind to the target. The viewer has to be completely blind to the target. That I found that in that blind protocol, that I could access locations and people and things, and I could perceive them and comprehend them and document them and explore them and learn about them. So I realized that remote viewing was the thing that I had wished for. was remote viewing. And I have been able to learn about places and history and especially people, especially people. And a lot of those videos are up. I put them up over the past 9 years or so, 8 or 9 years. Though I've documented them where I learned about some of my favorite things. Like Amelia Earhart was a target that I had. And I didn't know anything about Amelia Earhart. She crashed a plane. That's all I knew about Amelia Earhart. But as I'm remote viewing Amelia, and I'm blind, I do not know that the target is Amelia Earhart. I'm completely blind to the target. But what I will never forget, what I learned about Amelia Earhart, is that as I'm doing that session, and I am comprehending a person, and this person is saying, I know how to read maps. I don't get lost. That's what was in the session. I don't get lost. I know how to read maps. I'll never forget. Now I know me. I know Amelia Earhart. I know Amelia Earhart. Ayn Rand. Completely blind to the target. But the target was this person who the way they thought was what was important about them. And I want to know how do they think this? What happened? And I was experiencing this person's childhood where they had affluence and then it was all taken from them and they were desolate. They went from this free and happy, abundant life and then everything was taken from them, and the shock and the anger and the trauma formulated their views on life and elements of life, and that's what they were known for. And and I had to research it. That's the story of Ayn Rand. I didn't know anything about Ayn Rand. It was some old lady who wrote books, but I know her now. I'll never forget her now. So remote viewing is the tool, the learning tool that I always wanted, and it is that. It is that. So what's the purpose of this video? The purpose of this video is not just to talk about that. The purpose is that what I want is a group of neuroscientists, a group of learning behavioral scientists to work with me. I want to have them study from their perspective of neurology, from their perspective of how people learn, how the brain learns, uh, people who are experts in neural diversity, in learning disabilities, that this is a new learning tool. I've never heard anyone in the remote viewing community talk about this. I believe I am the first to discuss this, and I want to do something about that. I want to be studied, and I want remote viewing to be studied as a learning tool, not just as a way to look at this. Got the target. Ain't I so cool? Or the aliens on Jupiter, eat waffles for breakfast, or not nothing. There's a time and a place for that. But this is neither the time nor the place. This is I want to be studied as a remote viewer who uses remote viewing for their learning disability. That's what I want to do. And so if there are scientists who watch this, if there are learning disability behavioral specialists and scientists who are watching this, I think you will find this very interesting. It's novel. It's a novel approach. And, I want to contribute. I want to be a contributor to a novel approach to learning that would satisfy decades of trauma. That would make my decades of trauma uh, worth it to make a contribution. And I mean trauma. I mean, I'm talking getting beat down as low as you can go with another F and bringing home another bad report card and being the F kid in class and while my friends seem to have no problem getting A's and the confidence they strut around. I got another A, and I'm getting kicked in the pants when they drop another F on my desk, and and just feeling terrible, just feeling like a piece of shit. So all of that is all of that experience is worth it um, because I've found a learning tool, and I want to exploit that. I want to be studied about that. I want to have this added into the equation of how people with a learning disabilities can access a tool within themselves, a learning tool. So if you have any insights, please leave a comment. Thank you so much. Many more to come. Thank you.